Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We have a really exciting video for you today because 13G and 13F forms are out. And if you don't know what a 13G or 13F form is, it's basically a regulatory form that any bank, any institution, any hedge fund has to file every 45 days. And because they file it every 45 days, they have to publish their ownership percentages and stakes within companies that they're investing in every 45 days. They have to show if they've sold shares, if they're short shares, long shares, if they are buying more shares. And we've just gotten a lot of new 13G and 13F forms that we're going to talk about in today's video. And it is actually insane. Every single one of the ones we're covering, I think we're talking about at least 9 of them, have increased their shares of Palantir. But not just increased their shares of Palantir by, a couple percentage points. We have some that have increased by literally 600%. I mean, it is absolutely insane. When the stock price was dropping, and this is from last quarter because it was 45 days ago, when the stock price went from 29 to around 17, institutions were loading up the boat. Really interesting stuff today. We're going to talk about it. Before we get into the video, Jeremy from Financial Education, 700,000 subscribers on YouTube, one of the biggest finance channels, featured my video. Really cool. Featured my video with Sean, who's the former IBM employee, and we talked about what is Palantir. That was a podcast that a lot of my subscribers and a lot of my audience enjoyed, and it had about 11,000 views, which was insane for me to get 11,000 views. But when he featured it on his channel, a lot more people got to see that video, and that video was, I think, one of the most conclusive ways to understand Palantir. So for the subscribers that are here from his channel, welcome to this channel. This channel, we talk about Palantir, we talk about the market, we talk about growth stocks. I'm still trying to find my place. I started YouTube November 2021, so still trying to figure things out. We are going to be live streaming every day on this channel starting in March. Happy you're here. Glad you're here. Hope you enjoyed some of the Palantir content and any other content that comes out of the channel. Let's get into these ownership funds. Okay, so first of all, shout out to this account again on Twitter. This is the account that reports so much of this stuff. If you're not following me on Twitter, @AmitIsInvesting, we go through the pain and the beauty of the market every single day, and I talk about Palantir a lot on Twitter as well. So this account is from Japan, and they just do an amazing job covering Palantir. So we are going to go through their screenshots and their tweets, loading up all the different ownership funds. So first off, we have Jane Street Group disclosed its holdings of 13.3 million shares of Palantir as of December 31st, 2021. This is all from last quarter. And they added 70% more shares. So they had 7 million on November 16th. And within November 16th to December 31st, they added 70% more shares, 5 million. Obviously, from November 16th down to December 31st, that's when we saw the major first crash of Palantir. Now, before we keep going into these, this is only from December 31st. We're in February 2022. So within the past month and a half, a lot of institutions could have sold off their positions. Maybe they didn't keep all these positions. My one thing to that is I don't know how likely that is, right? And the reason I don't know how likely that is because if you were adding at this time, you were buying it around, let's say $17, $18, right? If you were getting it at a decently price. For it to go from 17, 18 to like 12, and for institutions to sell off, like what, this Jane Street Group bought 5 million shares. Do I really think they sold 5 million shares because it went down another $4 or $5? I don't know. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But I think if you had that much conviction to buy the dip on Palantir, you wouldn't necessarily just sell the dip that you bought at a loss unless you had, other obligatory places where you have to put your capital, right? And that may be true. But granted, the fact that they were even deciding to buy that dip, to me, means that if they were bullish on Palantir when it dipped even lower, they either got rid of their position because they were too scared, or they loaded up even more. And then the next 45 days, the Q1 filings we're going to see from other 13G forms that come out, that's going to be very telling. Did these institutions double down on their dip buying, or did they end up selling their positions because they were too scared? And, I don't know what happened, but we will see. The one thing I can say is this is a very bullish sign to see all these institutions buying when the dip was heavy. Citadel Advisors submitted a 13F form on February 14th. This was on a couple days ago, disclosing that it has 7 million shares, 7.7 million. They added 28% more shares. So they added 1.6 million shares from November 15th of 2021. And here the screenshots, it basically says the exact same thing that's here. Next one, Wale Trading LLC submitted that they hold 3.5 million shares on December 12th, 2021. They went up 28%. They added another 770,000 shares because they had about 2.7 million shares the quarter before. Next up, Morgan Stanley, pretty big name, submitted a form February 14th. I love that all these came out on Valentine's Day. I don't know if that was a coincidence, but that's just, it was nice. And we got the love letter from Alex Karp. I did a reaction to that shareholder letter. You can check that out. It was a very esoteric Shakespearean I can never say S and H properly, and I still think I have that problem. I remember being in kindergarten, literally, my teacher put me in front of class. I remember this like it was yesterday, and she said, see, I'm still having a problem. She said, say the word she, and I kept saying see. And she kept making fun of me in a fun way, though. And I literally remember this. This is one of my earliest memories I have. So it's always been hard for me to say those letters. But anyway, Carp was acting like he was Shakespeare. And I still said it wrong again. See, the way he released that letter. It was a very, very nice letter. So they added 30% more shares. They added 5.3 million more shares from the 17 million they had. They added 5.3 million. Now they have 22.7 million. And again, maybe they sold off in January, but I don't know. I mean, like if you bought the dip on Pound, like out of all the dips you could have bought as a Morgan Stanley or as a Jane Street Group or whatever, if you decided to go on Palantir, I mean, you had to expect there was some volatility, right? You weren't going to expect, oh, it's just going to jump back up to 30 in a month, right? Now, did we expect the NASDAQ to go down in the worst NASDAQ we've seen since January, ever? Probably not, which means it could have spooked a lot of investors. But if you chose Palantir, then you maybe have just doubled down on the dip, and we'll find out about that soon. Susquehanna International Group, they had 15 million shares as of the end of the year, and they increased their position by 70%, up from 9 million. So they added 6.4 million more shares over the last 45 days. Then we have UBS Group. They hold 3.5 million shares. They increased their shares by 22%. They used to have 2.9 million. They increased it by 647,000 shares. Who do we have next? We have okay, this one was the big one, man. Bank of Montreal. They have 10 million shares as of the end of December 2021. They only had 1.4 million on November 12th. So think about that. They added 8.7 million shares from November 12th, 2021 to December 31st, 2021. So like that to me, it's just like, that's kind of crazy. Like they just decided to, let's actually check out the stock price during that time. So what are we doing? We're doing Palantir stock price. Let's look at what that was like. So what do we have? 6 months, 1 month. Let's look at 6 months. So we're looking at November 12th, 2021. What was the stock price? November 12th, 2021. Here we go. Let's look at around $22. All right, so we're at $22. That's when they last disclosed, and they bought it at the end of December 31st. Right, so they added 8 million shares within that time. So December 31st, we had gone down to a low. What was that time? Around $18. So 22 to 18. So they were adding 8 million shares within the 22 to 18 or 18 to 22 range. And that's a 600% increase from their initial position. So within those 40 days, they were like, yeah, let's add 8 million shares. Like, to me, that's why I get skeptical of like, oh, they sold because it dropped from like 18 to 11. Like, that's a big drop. I get it. But it only hit 11 for like a very, you could say 12. 12 was the even range where it hit. 11, it kept bouncing off of. So when it got to 12, did they sell 8 million shares, sell 600% at a loss? Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. Especially, like, here's the reason it really doesn't make sense. I know these banks are short term and everything, but if they know the potential of Palantir, and I think if you're watching this channel, you kind of know that the potential of Palantir is actually insane. Like, if you get it at 18, the reason you went all in to the point where you put 600% more of your position at 18, even when you knew things might get worse, is because you were like, this is such a juicy dip that I have to take advantage of it, to the tune of 8 million shares. So if it goes lower, to me, it's just like, well, we're just going to take more advantage of it. Our conviction's only going to get deeper versus, oh my God, we're just going to sell it off, right? Like, to go 8 million deep when it drops to 18 on that small of a dip, and then to just sell that off for such a loss because it goes to 12, it doesn't add up to me. Like, it really does not make any sense. Because we're talking about a Palantir, we're not talking about like a swing trade type of stock. And most of the institutions that have Palantir aren't really selling Palantir, like historically, because they've just kept on and holding because they know that Carp and management have said it's a long-term play. So you're not going to get small hedge funds that are just looking for the short term and on the action, or at least, theoretically, not all of them would be doing that. Vanguard, it has 127 million shares. They own 6% of the company. They added 8 million more shares since September 30th. So they increased their ownership percentage by 6 million shares. BlackRock. Now, BlackRock's kind of weird because they own like the entire world, right? But nonetheless, BlackRock added 2.67% of Palantir. They disclosed they have 84 million shares as of December 31st, 2021. So they had 82 million shares as of November 9th at a value of 1.9 billion. Now they have a value of 1.5 billion, obviously because the stock price has dropped, and they have 2 million more shares. So BlackRock loaded up on another 2 million shares. BlackRock owns a decent portion of Palantir. Citigroup, they underestimated Palantir, disclosed that they added 226.8% more Palantir shares, disclosure of 3.2 million shares, up from when they had 1 million shares. So they added about 226% more shares to Palantir. Then the National Pension Service, this is a new holding, so this was not disclosed before. They added 2 million shares on December 31st, 2021 for about $36 million. That was their plan. And next to the Hyundai Doosan Infrastructure Initiative is the purchase from a Korean pension. Para steadily expanding into Asia and other. This is Palantir steadily expanding into Asia other than China into different funds that are buying it. And this is the National Pension Service. And then finally, we have this chart that just describes what this looks like, right? So this is where you're seeing a lot of the institutional value, and you're seeing from since October 20th, it's been just going up and up and up, and there's been some dips along the way, but pretty much now we're at around 35% ownership institutionally of Palantir. Really, really good stuff. We have earnings tomorrow. I am live streaming earnings. Be there. It is going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. I'm going to have 2 special guests with me. Chris Patel, amazing guy, covers Palantir, and Sachin Sharma. He is a private investor in SpaceX, geophysicist, private consultant for the past 25 years. It's going to be a fun time. We're going to probably be live by like 6:50 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The video for it will be in the description. You can check it out. It'll be in the pinned comment. And we'll get results by 7 a.m. So 7 a.m. Eastern, we will have the numbers. We're going to be analyzing those results for an hour. And then 8 a.m., we're going to have the conference call. I don't even have work on Thursday, which is awesome. So literally, I might live stream the whole day, to be honest. Like, I don't know what we're going to do, but I'm excited for it. It's going to be super fun. And yeah, we're going to see these results. Look, they just released a shareholder letter. They just released a new interview, by the way, that Karp released in German. I don't even know if I'm going to have time to really react to that yet, probably in the next couple of days, but like that came out. And now we have earnings in a day. Super excited. Make sure you're here 7 a.m. It's going to be the most fun live stream breaking down what happens, as long as they don't crap the bed on earnings. But I don't think they're going to, based on what they're doing and the fact that these institutions are loading up. I think these institutions are like, hey, let's do it, Palantir. Let's go to the promised land. So excited for that. Make sure you guys are there. Looking forward to it. Thank you guys for reading. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on all these institutional buys. My name is Amit. I'll see you guys in the next one.